A horrific terrorist event in Paris this morning. Cops were killed. Individuals were killed as a result of these terrorists who were attacking as a result of cartoons that were published in a magazine that infuriated a lot of Islamic jihadists around the world. There had been a target on this magazine because of their publication of these pictures, the cartoons of Muhammad and others. And as a result, we have this shooting, 12 people dead, including 2 policemen. So could the Paris shooting push France, and in fact all of Europe, into a triple dip recession? Let's bring in our panel. We have Sabrina Schaefer, Independent Women's Forum Executive Director, Paul Vigna, Wall Street Journal's Money Beat reporter, and our own Adam Shapiro. Paul, Paris is already having economic troubles. Paris in particular is a city. We have a lot of economic refugees here in New York from Paris who say they can't do business there anymore. Could this event tip Paris and then France into a recession?
I think France right now is barely avoiding a recession. I think they're at the point right now where really the difference between contraction and expansion in the economy is negligible. There's no real difference there. So in terms of could this just have such a dampening effect on sentiment that it could tip them over into a recession? Yes, but are they going to go into a recession even if this had not happened today? Probably. I mean, you look at all of Europe, you look at the direction where all the economies are going, you look at prices, inflation, they're headed towards another recession.
Sabrina, it's hard to imagine anybody as unpopular as President Obama, but President Hollande in France is less popular than President Obama is here in the United States. So if he doesn't handle this precisely right, and there are already indications that there may be some problems in the way it's being handled, the confidence in him could go to zero, and that could hurt the economy.
Right, and there's so many variables to consider here. There's national security and there's economic security. And when we're talking about the economic security, as we're talking here, we're really in a precarious position in Europe, all across from Europe, from France to Germany to Italy. The Greek elections earlier this week looked as though they had a devastating impact. The Eurozone as a whole is doing very badly. And one of the particular problems for France is there's sort of lack of investment in social capital, right? This is not a country that has a very high workforce participation right now. We have an aging population. They are not having big families. All of this is going to impact their ability to grow that economy.
And Adam, let's bring it back home. If, in fact, France goes into a recession, maybe even tipping Germany into a recession, won't that affect stocks here and our economy?
It may not, because, our exposure, at least exports to Europe, aren't perhaps as great as people think, but it would affect companies which have, multinationals which have exposure to Europe. Eventually, we would catch some kind of cold, but whether we would experience the recession that France is probably already in, because they're already going to battle with Germany about the need to invest more, and they've been taking raps from Germany because they're not going to adhere to the austerity measures they had agreed to. So as far as what happens to us, we'll catch cold, but it won't bring us down drastically.
And Paul, bringing the terrorism issue back to us, if it can happen in Paris, couldn't it happen here? And if it does, I mean, particularly in New York, where you have this awful relationship between the mayor of New York and the police force, are we prepared to deal with this?
Well, I mean, look, David, since September 11th, things have never been the same here. Of course it could happen here. And you hope it doesn't. And thankfully, this building, we have good security here, so I can't imagine armed gunmen could just walk in. But could it happen? Of course it could happen. And look, you try to do everything you can to prevent these. I'm sure in France they were doing everything. There was security outside that building, but you can't prevent every single event. You just can't. You have to kind of be prepared.
Sabrina, though, it is scary when you think of the fact that the police have been the target of all these anti-cop protests around, not just in New York, but all around the nation. Now's the time when we need cooperation between the authorities and the police. Do we have it?
Yeah, and that's what's very concerning, is that we've been so focused on security here at home in terms of our policing of day-to-day street activities, but really we have this larger war that we're still very much embroiled in. And of course, if we look at what was going on in Europe, there's been a rising sort of frustration and concern about what's perceived as the Islamification of Europe. Certainly there have been protests in Germany. I'm not sure that the leadership in Europe has really been keeping an eye on it the way that hopefully we're being more vigilant here at home.
Okay. Thank you, gang. We're going to see more of the panelists. We are awaiting the president. Surprise, surprise, he's a little bit late. He is speaking at a Ford plant, which ironically has closed.